All right, it is not 9:30 on a Thursday night, but it is Thursday, and you heard that music, and it's not Rip Radio Network, but I'm here anyway, so welcome to a special episode of ChipChat. I'm Chip. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. A lot of you know that we talk about the news, we talk about comedy, we talk about all kinds of things on our show, but some of you probably know that I am also a curler, which is a strange condition to have. There's a few thousand of us in the country who also suffer the same affliction. I have with me two of the best curlers I have ever known joining me on this show because what we want to talk about is something that is going on in the curling world. Now, if you are following along on Twitter or social media or stuff, you may have caught a little glimpse of this, which may not make a whole lot of sense, and we are here to try to make it make sense. Joining me today is, well, we'll let them introduce themselves. Dean, who are you?
Yeah, hi there, Mike. Thanks for having me. I am Dean Gemmell, Director of Curling Development at USA Curling.
All right. So the real expert here.
Yeah, I was a men's national champion in 2012, and people who follow the streaming may hear my voice quite a bit on the web streaming that we do as the play-by-play person usually.
And you have a show as well.
Yes, and with USA Curling, I have a new podcast, relatively new, called The Whole Spiel. Our last episode just posted last week. That was with two of the people behind the new Oakland Bay Area Curling Club, talking about their road to reality and what they have planned going forward.
Fantastic. Yes, it's a great show and a great name for a show. I can't tell you how funny I think that is as a Jewish curler. I think that's hilarious.
Well, I'll tell Jenna Martin, who I think it was her name, I'll tell Jenna Martin, our Director of Communications and Marketing, I'll tell her that you appreciate the name.
Excellent. Tell her to give me a call. We'd love to get her on the show. All right, Stacy, who are you?
I'm Stacy. I am your average, everyday club curler. I curl out of Maryland. I coordinate our women's league. I won Volunteer of the Year last year. I care about, I'm representing kind of the everyday person that curls a couple times a week. I go to a couple bonspiels a year and truly love the sport and the community, but I'm not an elite curler, and I'm still coming to terms with the fact that I know I will never be in the Olympics.
You are an Olympic-level warm roomer, so I think you should get some credit for that.
I am a broom stacker to the hilt, and if you need a bartender for your bonspiel, I make a mean chocolate martini. But
there you go.
I know that I'm not going to the Olympics. I'm not in a high-performance program.
Well, nor am I. I did play Olympic trials, but I am well beyond that now. So, my goal now is do not revolve around competitive play. Even though, if anybody watches me curl in my Monday Night League, they'll know that I'm still competitive at heart.
Excellent. All right. So all of us here are, let's just say, pro curling, and so if anybody wants to hear a contrary argument to should there be more curling, you're not going to hear it here. So let's get right into this. There is a bit of a dust-up going on between, let's call them governing bodies of the sport of curling. There's regional governing bodies, and then there's the national governing body, which, Dean, you work for. So can you explain to us, from USA Curling's perspective, what all is really going on?
Sure. And this has been unfolding for a little while, but USA Curling, the members of USA Curling are actually the 10 regional associations around the country, one of them being the Grand National Curling Club, which serves mostly eastern United States. So they are a member. With that, they have a board seat. They get the members' assembly votes, etc. And part of their obligation as a member of USA Curling is that when people join their regional association, and this is true for all regional associations, they also join the national organization. And that works vice versa as well, by the way. We have on occasion in the past, we're going to have more now, but we have on occasion at-large clubs, and that only occurs when a region does not want them, right? We can't find a region for them. In general, we want new clubs to join a region and USA Curling. So with that comes, with that board seat and that influence within the national organization comes a responsibility to meet the compliance standards that are set out in the bylaws. And the bylaws actually were revised a short time ago to be 100% of the clubs in a region have to be USA Curling members to 95% to give a little bit of latitude there. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean if a club belongs to neither the region or nothing, that doesn't count as being out of compliance. So if a club, what does happen is if a club joins the regional association only and elects not to join the national organization, that puts the regional association out of compliance. And
so if I've got my own club of a paper club, or even if it's we're borrowing ice on somebody else's ice or whatever, and we don't want to join the GNCC, we also don't want to join the national organization, there's no problem. We're not impacting that 95% threshold for GNCC, and we're not really having anything. We are just operating completely autonomous.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not going to hold regional associations out of compliance because somebody doesn't join them either, right? And whenever you think about structure or bylaws, and I'm not a guy who, my life and how it's gone, I'm not exactly Mr. By the code thing on everything, but there's
I don't think anybody's accused you of that.
There's obligations with membership. To me, it would be as if someone joined the Potomac Curling Club and then suggested that they didn't want to pay the same due structure. They'd like to have their own due structure, and maybe they wanted to curl Tuesday or Thursdays, whichever day they felt like, and they also wanted to be able to run for the board. I don't think that other members who are abiding by the rules of the club would love that. So we have a responsibility to all our member associations to treat everybody equally. And the GNCC has decided they rewrote their own bylaws to supersede ours. But quite frankly, they've decided that they don't want to comply with current bylaw structure. And I'll give you just a quick little bit of history too. In 2014, I was an athlete rep on the USA Curling Board, and we drafted new bylaws. And at the time, the GNCC representatives were quite insistent that we retain the membership, the regional association membership structure, because there was debate at that point about not having. And I think, I don't want to speak for the entire organization, but I think on this, but I think in the future, at some point down the road, we probably will have a national organization without the regional association as members. Because
can I ask?
I think it might be better for all eventually.
Can I ask a couple of clarifying questions?
Sure.
How old or when was the national organization founded?
Well, you're going to quiz me on history, but I believe sometime around the 50s. I think that if you're suggesting probably because the GNCC is the oldest curling organization, that's true. But the member associations around the country came together to form the national body.
Well, the reason I asked that is exactly what you're talking about. So basically the idea is at the time that the national governing body was forming up, there was a reason for doing that there were regional associations, and they said, look, we need to have some bit of standardization, and also if we do want to have a path to a national team, national playdowns, national Olympic ambitions, all of those kind of things, we do have to have some sort of national structure. And so that the regional associations basically created, or at least incentivized the creation thereof, of USA Curling. Is that more or less right?
Yeah, that's fairly accurate, and you can see, I mean, the notion behind regional associations and a national organization intertwined like we are is to have everybody pulling in the same direction, right? So
there's also
the regional association isn't competing for members with the national organization.
Exactly, and there's a governance aspect to it too. Like supposing that there weren't the regional bodies already in place, if you did go to an at-large thing where every club could vote, you would probably have to structure the board by geographic region to some extent to make sure that there was some representation. In the same way that, say, like Congress doesn't just go by population and let there be all the people from California or whatever. So I understand how those two piggyback together. Let me ask another question, sort of follow on to that. What would you say is that USA Curling does primarily for the regular, everyday curlers like people like Stacy and myself?
Sure. I mean, look, the first thing we do is run national championships for curlers of all levels. I mean, that's not the first thing, but it's a big thing we do. And I would want to add that people understand that we don't just run men's and women's national championships and mixed doubles national championships and Olympic trials events. We run a national 5 and under national championship. We run senior men's and senior women's championships. We run U18 championships. And I think going forward, as resources allow, we will continue to add championships when appropriate. We'd like to have championships that serve everyone. But apart from that, we could get into things like the programming we provide. We have a junior program model that we'll be sharing. We have Jessica Schultz runs a junior development program that I think has over 200 kids signed up for it. We'll be running a junior camp in the Twin Cities next week. We do ice tech training. We do officiating training. We do instructional certification and training. All those things I think do impact the everyday curler to some degree. Coaching pathways. We provide Safe Sport, and we get audited by Safe Sport. So if it's the club doing it, the club would be audited. We get audited. We manage those audits. We do provide insurance now as part of our membership. That was a bit of confusion earlier. We added insurance. It was $6 per person. Some people think we put it on top of the dues. It was actually just absorbed into the dues. So the dues have not been raised. It's still $34, except now it includes the member benefit of an insurance policy. So the $6 was something we managed. I understand not every club will say, oh, that's the insurance we want. But many clubs have told us how it saved them money, or they want it. And I think just to quickly touch on insurance, because the last thing I want to do is talk much about insurance. But quickly, I think it's incumbent on a national organization to provide an insurance policy. I mean, insurance is an actuarial science. The more bodies, the more lives, as insurance people like to say, we should have better rates going forward. So we also provide, I would say that this is valuable for the everyday curler, visibility. I mean, we do activations at everything from Major League Baseball games to NFL camps, things like being on James Corden. I think that's good for the everyday curler. Now, what I'm going to stress here is I know the everyday curlers say, well, that's not just me individually, right? But that all helps. It helps your club. It helps your club stay healthy. It helps keep bringing people in the door. And it helps you retain members. And I'll give the example here real quick. I mean, I've been a GNCC member since 2006. I've paid my dues every year to the GNCC. I've never played in a GNCC event. And I doubt I ever will. And I could say...
Well, we could fix that. We'd love to invite you to Potomac.
I could say that GNCC, on a personal level, has done, like, individual, nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. But that doesn't bother me because I know that within my club, it has helped retain members. I've seen the excitement that our members have for their 5 and under events. I've seen it, and I've seen throw it the other way to their senior mixed events. So I'm not saying the GNCC doesn't do good things. I think they do, but individually, nothing for me. And I only show that to illustrate that I think thinking that narrow, is not ideal. I mean, some of the other things we do, we have the club locator on our site. We stream events. We stream as many events as we can, and as many championships events as our resources allow. What some people don't know is that NBC wasn't going to offer the streaming at our Olympic trials with round robin games, so we actually found the money to make that happen. That's a bit of a financial thing that we really had to wrestle with. We're the guarantor of WCF loans to new clubs. The World Curling Federation has a program, and we have to act as a guarantor on those. And we do provide a number of marketing materials for clubs that I think again come back and help the individual member. Individual member, you can talk about things like instructor certifications, coaching certification, coaching pathways that should have been developed years ago that we are developing right now. I don't want to get into a big laundry list, but
it's a pretty good list.
I'll say this though. I'll say this. Nobody at USA Curling, from CEO Jeff Plush on down, right now thinks we do everything perfect, right? Like nobody is there saying, boy, that doesn't mean we're not proud of a lot of the work we're doing, but we always see room for improvement. And I would say we're trying to improve on multiple fronts and offer more, sometimes what I call them are products. We never used to have ice tech summits, right? We're going to offer those. We're working in partnership with clubs so that they can actually, things like that, and the instructional clinics can actually be revenue generating for clubs. we're working with clubs that host events so that those events do make money for the club. So, that's, I could go on and on, but I don't want to because I know at some point people will tune out. But that's the best answer I can give to that question.
It's a good list. And so to be clear, as a regular average curler, having the governing body existing, having the visibility, it helps me explain what it is I'm doing. People are like, where do you go on those Monday nights? Well, I'm going to, throw rocks on the ice. That doesn't make any sense. But, and so it does provide the visibility. I think it also helps in terms of, like you mentioned, with standardization a little bit, with instructor methods, trainings, and ice obviously needs to be keen everywhere, as keen as we can get it. So I think I appreciate all of that. Stacy,
I should add real quick, just before you go to Stacy, that we also, because I don't want to exclude them, but we support our national team athletes, and we broaden the pool for that. But our top teams we support not with membership dollars, by the way, but with USOPC dollars and some staff time. And I think that you only have to look at the gold medal in 2018 or the more consistent results we've had in the last few years and realize that has value too.
There's also, I think, maybe a competing story about USA Curling's support for the Schuster rink in 2018, but we could get that. It's a whole other show. So, Stacy, you are an everyday average curler, but you're not just an average curler because you're a very active club member, and you, as you mentioned, you won Volunteer of the Year. So, does what Dean's talking about sort of square with your experience as a curler and the way that the USA Curling supports you?
So starting off, I know our club was formed from a loan from USA Curling. I'm aware of that. That helped us. I went to an instructor class that was taught by people that are at my club and happened in our warm room, and we had to pay for it, which was weird. And our club was on the Today Show, and we reached out to USA Curling to see if they'd help, and we got nothing. So from our perspective, we're doing a lot of legwork ourselves. And I know at least in this last media cycle for the Olympics, we reached out and totally got ghosted. And we were on 22 different news outlets. We're in a huge media market. So this was a big deal. And I know New York was too. So from the everyday curler, from me as a club volunteer, what I'm seeing from my perspective is a lot of attention. And I'm not even talking about money. I'm just talking about energy and focus and attention going to a very small amount of people in one particular region of the country. And
the upper Midwest.
Yeah, so we have jokes about if you're not Corey Dropkin, you don't exist. Things like that, where we see all of the focus going towards winning a gold medal, which is just something that's not really that important to your everyday curler. So that's just a point.
0.2% of my time is focused on Corey Dropkin, maybe less.
Well, that's more than mine.
And I like Corey, but very little focus for me on those aspects in sport. I apologize if you reached out and didn't get media help. We have a lot of requests during the games, and that's unfortunate.
To be fair, we managed it on our own.
We did great
with the Today Show and our local NBC affiliate, and
we had
Today Show's kind of hardly anybody's heard of it.
We ran a media day that now Broomstone's copied and some other clubs have copied. I talked them through it. I'm not worried about Olympics media. That's my shtick.
Here in Washington, we're pretty good at managing media attention.
Oh, I know that. I know your club well. I've had great experiences at your club.
You've been here.
I
met you here.
And enjoyed my time there and actually succeeded there. So it's been good. And run a clinic there. That's, look, like I said, I don't know about the media request situation. But
let's put that to the side.
I think there's a few more things. What would you say, Stacy?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So I heard a couple things like that, but what would you like USA Curling to do for you, the individual curler, Stacy?
So
I think we can cycle back to that.
Okay.
We're going to answer that, I think.
Right.
Yeah. But I want to know also, this is, I know I have a personal interest in it, but I'm not being personal interest. This is just intrepid reporter question time. But for Stacy, as a more active member of the club, certainly than I am, how did this feel like today, yesterday, this week? Like, we saw all of a sudden we got these emails and it didn't feel great.
Right.
And how has it felt for you?
So our club has Twitter chats, we have Discord channels, we have Facebook chats. Oh man, they have been blowing up. And I'm not even going to talk for me personally. I'm just going to kind of repeat some of the sentiments that have been coming out for people who don't follow curling politics and are, Monday Night Women's League players. And I coordinate Women's League, and they ask me way more questions than I could ever answer. They got an email this week that said, "Hey, you're kicked out of USA Curling." And they had no background to that, and that scared the bejesus out of some people.
I'll say that exactly, right? If you go through the email, it outlines the ways you're not.
Right.
Well, it outlines the way that we can rejoin.
Right.
But it doesn't say, we're still current. I know we're still current, but, come the next cycle through, we won't be unless we act, which is different from the previous 10 years that I have been curling, where it's just I pay my dues and that's that.
Well, here, I'll read you the official statement for clubs that want to know how they don't have a lapse in membership. And it's clubs can continue.
We got that today, actually.
Okay.
We know
we got that today.
There's a way to
I'm just saying the optics of it to a Monday night curler.
Right.
That was the messages I got from people of, oh my God, are we not curling? Is this not happening?
Are we unsanctioned?
Are we getting closed? Like
out of the
They didn't understand.
From that, I think anytime you try to explain some of these things, it's difficult. Like you said, most people don't even know the relationship between GNCC and USCA, so they get an email, and if that was the interpretation, that's unfortunate. But I think we're working pretty hard to resolve that, to explain what the actual situation is.
Yeah. So just the optics of that was not. That was not great.
I appreciate the participation in trying to clear this up, for example, coming on this show.
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand that, like I said, I mentioned again, we are from Washington, so we do understand that sometimes the thing that you're trying to explain is more complicated than can fit on a bumper sticker. And then when you go to try to explain it, people tune you out, or they can't understand it, or they blame Obama or whatever. Like, we know that story.
Yeah.
But I will say, for the people, Potomac is not a good example of a club that is on the margins in terms of finances, or for where the members are
right.
On the margins in terms of finances. We're talking about DC, we're talking about very affluent, very well-educated community. But there are curling clubs, especially arena clubs, especially paper clubs, where they maybe only get, 5-6 weeks of curling, and this increase in cost or what they are paying towards USA Curling doesn't exactly benefit them very much, except from that visibility thing that you were talking about. And it can raise the price per week of their curling experience by 20% or something like that. It's a lot. It could be a lot. And I know that $35 does not seem like a lot, but it could be a lot depending on your circumstances.
Yeah.
It's spread out over 5 weeks, $7 more for a $40 game. That's hard to get like an expensive night. You get what I'm saying? So, we are feeling some of that. We are hearing a lot of that. I got to tell you, Stacy, what do you think that this looks like to the? We are not a small club. We're not Utica. But what does this look like to the smaller clubs? To our friends up in Merrimack, to our friends in Bucks. What is this looking like to them?
Well, Bucks is doing fine. I'm not going to talk for Bucks,
well,
but I'm thinking.
Honest, Bucks County was not a USA Curling member last season. So,
yeah, but thinking of some small ones. Yeah, thinking of some smaller ones. Some people.
And
Yeah, some people out in Loudoun County. Some people. There are lots of places, and thinking of the GNCC region, which is ginormous. There are people in South Carolina and Georgia who they don't have curling for 100 miles in any direction. Certainly, my brother in the middle of frickin' nowhere doesn't, right? He can drive and there's nothing. So if he wanted to start something where an ice rink, like he literally could buy maybe 6 slots over the summer to do that. And I think places like Minnesota and Wisconsin who have this kind of long-standing tradition where you can walk 3 blocks and there's another curling rink, might not understand that you're trying to attract people to a sport, and if you can make it so that, they pay $10 every time they come, you might get enough people in a couple years, probably not 2, but, in 10 years that you could do something with it. But now if it's $20 or $40, depending on how much your ice cost, you're making a difference.
We found out there was a break point with Breakfast League about how expensive we could make Breakfast League and still get people to casually show up.
I'm going to stop you for a sec, because I think our $34 fee, I'm not going to argue the merits of that. It's one of the lowest of any national governing bodies out there. So we don't operate with a huge budget. We operate incredibly efficiently. So I can't tell you we're going to lower dues. I think what you're missing here is that the crux of the matter is that those clubs were encouraged by the GNCC to join the GNCC for $22, right? That's where the disconnect is. The GNCC could say, hey, we're going to support you. They have nearly $1 million in the bank. We're going to give you some kind of grant to get going, but you don't have to join either association yet because you're not ready. But here's, we can help you. But the reality is what's happened is those clubs have been encouraged. They've been encouraged, frankly, to join the GNCC and not the national organization. So that becomes
absent any real evidence of that. I can't speak to that particular thing, but I will tell you that does not feel like that makes a tremendous amount of sense of why 2 organizations that are ostensibly pulling in the same direction towards expanding curling as a whole would do anything other than that. By contrast, or for example, maybe, I'm a member of several public radio stations that I cannot pick up with a receiver where I live or even within hundreds of miles of me, but because I support what they're doing, and so I maintain a membership there, much like your membership with the GNCC. It's about growing public radio in my case, or in your case, it's about growing curling.
No, but step back for a minute there, Mike. That's not a fair analysis. That's not a fair comparison. What if there's an NPR station that says, join us, don't join them because we're $12 less?
But what I'm saying is I have never heard once anything approximating that level of communication.
You did not listen then to the last GNCC call last October, but it doesn't matter whether the communication was made. As soon as the GNCC says, oh no, that's great, join us, not the National Association, of which we're a member and of which we have a board seat on. Don't join that organization, but join ours. The communication doesn't really matter.
But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
no, I don't really.
It's strange credulity a little bit, because why would I advocate for you not to join an organization that I'm a member of as a board member? I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm saying that's hard to believe. It seems crazy. It seems crazy.
It's happened. There are a number of clubs that have only joined the GNCC. I don't know why you think that's crazy.
But they must have their reasons.
So insurance is a big one.
And I think the answer is the insurance. If you're talking about a difference of $34 versus $22, and the insurance is the main driver of why you would join such a thing, you got to make a financial choice. I cannot blame a small club for making that choice. And furthermore, not to be too individualistic about it, but there does get to be this point where it says, shouldn't the clubs be the one to decide and not have the heavy hand of the national organization or the heavy hand of the regional organization?
Now they can.
Forcing it.
Now they can, quite frankly, because now a club could agree to join just our organization or just the GNCC or both. Now it doesn't matter.
Yeah, except that it would dilute their power and participation a little bit, because as an at-large member, they're not going to be represented in that board.
But step back again from the USA Curling perspective. You're talking about an association that wants to maintain power while not adhering to the bylaws that every other association does.
So can we clear up the bylaws thing? Because it is not in your bylaws. It is a policy that was passed later.
Can you tell us, you give us the specific line in the bylaws? Because this again, intrepid reporter asking this question. Can you get us the piece of U.S. Curling Code section such and such, blah, blah, blah? You know how it is.
What? I did just have it. So let me just give me a second here.
And we're asking because we've now had, 18 PhDs at our club trying to find it in the bylaws.
Well, I'll tell you about the 21.15 membership suspension, termination, and reinstatement. 21.15 section 5 is the section you'll want to look at.
that doesn't mention anything about a region has to retain a certain percentage.
There's definitely places in the bylaws where it talks about staying within the 95% number to remain compliant.
Is it a bylaw or a policy?
It's part of the bylaws. I mean, it's a part of the structure of the organization. I mean, I don't have it at my fingertips right here, but yeah, that's. I mean, there's a whole section on how you get suspended as a region and how you get reinstated.
As a member, not a region.
Well, the regions are the members of the association.
Yeah. I ask because we have some very scrupulous members who have now spent, 2 days going through all of these things and are very confused.
Overeducated club of a bunch of nerds. They've got a lot of effort into parsing the detailed language. So
we have more.
You can get us to the line so that we can get these nerds something to study.
If we can settle this.
Well, I didn't know you wanted me to bring my intricate knowledge of the bylaws, but I will stand by my belief based on every bit of consideration I have from our board members and from someone like Gordon McLean who studies this stuff about how it works.
So here's what they found. I can give you a summary.
Right.
Is it's not in the bylaws. It's in a policy that was passed in 2017 that was voted on by the board, but is a separate policy, is not part of the bylaws.
That's the 95%?
That's the 95%.
Yeah, because it was changed from 100%. I think in the bylaws previously it was 100%, and it was changed to 95%, which the GNCC voted to approve, by the way.
So, I want to sort of wind towards resolution here, because ultimately I think it's clear, the three of us, and I think...
I don't want to be this combative, actually.
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying.
Our time by, I'm going to pull up one thing here. Hold on.
What I'm getting at here is that the three of us share, obviously, this goal of growing curling and having it be more open, competitive, available, and easily accessible, and as common as basketball or whatever. So, and I don't think that there is a lot of actual personal disagreement or animosity towards that goal. So the question is, what could we do to resolve this? And I want to pose three possible options towards you. Now, granted, I am layperson.
I'm also not the one to decide that, but
No, I know, but I just want to talk these out and sort of, get these ideas out to the ether, because if we are going to publish this and we're out here trying to sort of maybe calm some tensions down and get things a little bit, level. One of the things that occurred to me is, could we lower the threshold of participation of a region to a number that would be relatively organically achievable, such as if you take a region that says, hey, has 100 clubs in it for round numbers, and you've got 20 to 30 of them, let's say 30, that are competitive at a club national level, that would be interested in staying in USA Curling no matter what, come hell or high water, willing to pay all the sets of dues or whatever, they would do it. If you move that threshold down to that level, there's no effort to force the region to enforce the rules of USA Curling, and it's also not going to create as much friction. That's one idea. Another idea is, if the amount of money that a region would have paid into USA Curling that is no longer going to be such because they do not want to be the enforcer for the national organization, if that amount of money could be raised in some other fashion and just simply handed over as, look, I'm buying out what would be the GNCC's share of our responsibility in USA Curling, could that not also calm this? Essentially, could we write a check to make this go away? Again, we're from Washington, so. And then the third thing is, if it is about membership, and if it is about having people pledging their support and funneling their talent and funneling their juniors and all of that towards USA Curling, could it perhaps be where the membership, instead of being $34, was $0 or maybe $4 or some sort of insignificant but symbolic number, such that it would signal that the national organization is more interested in keeping members than it is in raising money? Because it does seem like it's about money, and it does seem, again, to us East Coast elitists here, that this amount of money is really small and should just go away.
Well, unfortunately, it's still a pretty significant portion of our operating. I mean, we'd all like that not to be true, but
So the check answer would work, right?
Well, tell the GNCC to write a check. They have nearly $1 million in the bank.
But like, if I wrote a check tomorrow for the $327,000 or whatever we figured out it is, would that just solve it? I'm not going to. I don't have that kind of money. But if someone did,
the GNCC does. Frankly, I don't know if they want to, but that's probably above my pay grade to discuss. But if it satisfied the membership requirements, I don't see why it would be a huge problem.
So if they took up a collection to say this, buy us out from having to be the enforcer of USACurling.com, GoFundMe, blah blah blah, and everybody in the GNCC, all 7,000 of us, kicked in, let's say $34 to buy our way out from under this, couldn't we theoretically do that?
I think it would take the board approval, etc. But yeah, I mean, there's always an opportunity to pay, but I don't know if that ship has sailed, right? I mean, it may.
So what about the free membership idea?
Well, how do we function with a free membership, Mike?
Well, right. Yeah. It's worth a try.
I think we're trying to tease out.
I'd love a lot of things to be free. And I think what the crux of it is, you have a regional association that is, actively bringing on members to their association without fulfilling their obligation as a member of the national organization. I don't think that's a difficult thing to wrap your head around.
No, it certainly would make sense.
When those clubs had joined, the GNCC could have said, as you noted, you know what, we'll pay your USA Curling membership. Instead, they said, let's take your money for the GNCC membership and then just don't join USA Curling. But
So
we still want to retain a voice at USA Curling.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to tease out.
In all of my time paying my membership, I don't think I had ever understood that there was an option not to be in both.
Yeah.
Like the communication to me is your membership includes membership in both organizations.
And women's.
Your club can opt to not be in both.
And women's, if you're. But I think the crux of your.
Curling Association also, you pay $5 for that.
I think the crux of the question is this a money problem, or is this a headbutting problem? Because if it's we're not getting the money that we deserve, somebody could write a check and fix that. Like somebody outside of GNCC could write a check and fix that. Or is this not really about money and it's about people keep saying dick measuring contest. We have to drink now every time that comes up on Discord. We're going to all have alcohol poisoning because people just keep saying measure from the top, dick measuring contest. It's a power play.
Well, no, I don't even think any of those are accurate. We budgeted for having no revenue from the GNCC. We have budgeted for all kinds of scenarios. So it's not about money. And we are actively working as an organization in a way this organization never has before to pursue money beyond member revenue. Did I just freeze up?
No, you're good.
You're good, we heard you.
So, we honestly believe that relying on member revenue is not a long-term solution. But you have to remember as well that the entire team at USA Curling is basically new post-COVID. But we are trying to make it so that that's not such a big thing. But it's not simply about money. There's a structure in place. Somebody doesn't follow it. They actually openly say they won't follow it. I don't know a lot of paths we have left. Now, the other thing I want to add is that we're certainly not turning our backs on the everyday curler. We're offering every club a way to continue their relationship the same way with us. They can belong to both organizations. We will run at-large playdowns for U18s, club nationals, and mixed. We'll run at-large playdowns. They'll be in the East. And we will run those so those clubs who want to play, they have pathways to those championships. We will continue to do the same services we do for our member clubs, whether they're in the GNCC as well or not.
So my guess is that amongst the big clubs, you're likely to see both memberships maintained because they do want access to those things. So why not simply lower this threshold? If the rules were made by the committee or made by the board or whatever, they can be changed by the board. If what
rather than lower the threshold, we have to look at one point just the whole structure. I don't think.
Yeah, but if you want to change the structure, you're going to have some regional division in some way, shape, or form, whether it's for the purposes of the playdowns and dividing out who plays against who, all the way up to
But we
wouldn't
even need regions to run events, really. I mean, we like to work with regions, we want to work with regions who are doing good things.
Keep in mind, our club ran club playdowns. I've been on the other side of that.
Yeah.
But my question is,
Wait,
so let's...
GNCC club playdowns, or you had the club nationals right before?
The club nationals. We had the COVID nationals.
Yeah,
all right.
Well, we gave everybody COVID.
And we've done men's and women's playdowns at our clubs in the past year. But my question is, all right, so let's go down this road, right? We have people that want to go to nationals. It's very important to them, less important to me. And all of us are now going to pay so that like 12 people can go play in a national bonspiel. And we become an at-large club. So now the board meets at USA Curling. Us as an at-large club, how much representation do we have versus how much did we have under GNCC?
Well, you have your members' assembly votes is what you have, right? I mean, have you followed every vote the GNCC board member has made?
So we have representatives that we send to the GNCC meetings. I know that.
Well, and then the GNCC sends a representative
Right.
to our board, right?
Yeah. So it's a representative idea.
Well, you should separate it out as well. A national organization, and when you're on the board, part of the understanding is you're there to work nationally, not just to protect some. We don't want to turn into the Tea Party. We don't want the Tea Party on our board. Everybody on the board should be working and thinking national, even if.
But theoretically, they are representing their region. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
there is a reason that the board is made up of the regional association.
Right, and then with that, Mike, comes an obligation to fulfill the requirements.
I'm not doubting that at all, but I'm saying that
It's like living in DC.
Should we go the at-large route? Like, understand that I don't think people in Duluth speak for people like us in Potomac. So if
I would ask you to what decision by USA Curling Board has been so egregious?
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying sort of in a general sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just asking you a fair question though. Beyond this one, what's the decision that's been so egregious to you as a Potomac Curling?
I don't know that I could point to one off the top of my head like you don't have your code book with you, but I would say that there is a reason that we in this country and most of Western democracy understand that there is some benefit to regional representation at a national level, whether that's in government or whether that's in governing bodies. There is a reason.
I don't disagree. Your region, just a sec. Your region doesn't seem to care enough about it.
No. I'm saying that if we go to the at-large thing, and there are a bunch of East Coast curling clubs that want to be part of USAC, how could we possibly make sure that we get enough representation in the governing body? And I will tell you that there is a necessity for regional division for all governing bodies in a national sense. There's a reason that the Final Four is a Final Four, and it's not just a free-for-all play-down. Right? The NCAA has to divide it up by region. They get it all.
They don't divide it geographically for the tournament.
Right, but it's in theory geographically. Is what I'm saying. They are dividing it up.
Well, all I'm going to say, I think we can jump into all these metaphors all the time about what we want. I do know that USA Curling certainly has no interest in doing anything but making sure the at-large clubs feel served. I mean, that's about all I can tell you.
But how would we know that?
Yeah.
Well, you can watch the record. I mean, if you think your GNCC rep has done such an amazing job, then okay. But you can watch our record as an organization. I think we're pretty nationally focused.
I think it's not saying okay, we elect candidates to Congress all the time, right? So some of them we like, some of them we don't. But they are, in theory, there to represent us. But you're talking to people who live in D.C., who we don't have representation in Congress that can vote. And we know that, and we feel that.
We know what that feels like.
We know what that feels like. And so you're asking us to sign up for that again, and that is a sticking point for a lot of people, is that a seat at the table is really, a seat at the table where decisions are being made is an important thing.
I'm just going to say that we didn't push this thing through. So you do have members' assembly votes, but I mean, fine. I mean, I understand that's something a club would have to weigh. I mean, do we want to remain a member of USA Curling, or are we so bothered that we're not going to have a voice at meetings at board meetings that we don't want to be there? I mean, there's
it may be one of those things where the past isn't.
There's independent directors.
It may be one of those things where the past isn't necessarily indicative of the future. In the past, USA Curling has acted in a fair and reasonable way in a national level vis-a-vis all of the regions because it is made of the regional associations. Were it freed from that structure and more based on an at-large system, there is a potential. I'm not saying it would happen, but there is a potential for the places like the Upper Midwest to steamroll the places that have less numbers like the East Coast. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
I was going to say, Mike, it's conspiracy thinking. I mean, the Minnesota and Wisconsin, this is an age-old thing. I had it when I was on the board as an athlete rep. There's this conspiracy theory that Minnesota and Wisconsin are somehow aligned against the GNCC, and I just don't think that's true. As a national organization, we work for all. I've never heard of a decision made at USA Curling that was based on, what about, X, Y, and there's
Where's the new headquarters?
Yeah, they're in the Twin Cities, which I don't. Is that a gotcha thing, Stacy?
No, I'm just saying.
It's sort of funny.
We're in government, right?
It used to be in Stevens Point,
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Well, I don't think that discourse helps. Just like I don't think the Facebook discourse when there's plenty of misinformation on it. So I think we should at least stick to the fact that the previous headquarters was in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which was a pain in the ass to get to. We moved it to the Twin Cities because we're pursuing most of our athletes are training in the Twin Cities, and we have a deal with the Minnesota Vikings to be on their campus, and we might end up with a great facility. So.
Oh, and I love Minneapolis, no question about that. The question that, really where we're going to go with this is, how can this get resolved? What is the mechanism for resolution? Should this get to is there some arbitration clause?
Can we explain the member voting? Because people are very confused about that.
Vote? What's the deal there?
Who gets a vote? When is it? What are they voting on? Is it people like me that get a vote? People are confused.
The members' assembly is coming up. Let's see when it's scheduled for. It's
October
2022. So as an at-large club, you have a vote at the members' assembly. What's happened typically is the regions represent all the clubs and carry those votes. So you won't have a region that's carrying your vote.
I have a question.
Sure.
Until this vote happens, we are still a USA Curling member club, correct?
Yeah.
So our club gets one vote, is what you're saying. So every club gets one vote.
I'm not exactly sure
Okay.
how the votes are divided, but there's some big numbers.
Okay, people are really confused about that, and they're thinking somebody was like, hey, let's just get a bus and drive out 400 GNCC members and we'll all vote. And I'm like, I don't know who gets a vote in that. So that is something that's a sense of confusion.
Yeah, at the members' assembly. Now, I'm not an expert on how that works, to be honest, but what vote do you want to vote on?
Well,
we don't know.
Whether or not the GNCC gets kicked out of USA Curling comes to the top of my mind.
We don't really want to break up here, right? We all want to stay together.
I think you're talking to the wrong person. I think you should be. Have you invited the GNCC on your show?
Yeah, we've been talking to them too. So we are trying to work this out. And I have brokered peace on my show many times. We managed to get the only baseball team to come on and drop their lawsuit against the OnlyFans.com T-shirt. So we understand where this
I get that, but I don't think we were the ones that pushed for this situation. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Would you, and this you can just defer or no comment this question if you want, but I'll ask you point blank. Do you think that the GNCC essentially instigated their own exit from USA Curling?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. I'd comment on offline, and I'd have a pretty strong opinion.
Fair enough.
Okay, we'll take
I
that.
think it's somewhat informs the discussion a little bit that the president of the GNCC is with a club that didn't belong to USCA, and the secretary and treasurer are also members of the club that does not belong to USA Curling. So,
that does get back to the measure from the top sort of feeling.
Well,
to say.
yeah, I don't think they clearly want a different structure, right? They don't think they should have to abide by the 95% rule that every other association does. So that's a difficult broker piece to broker.
It does seem like a very difficult impasse. I can understand the position of the governing body, the national governing body saying, look, if you want to be a part of us and act with us and be be involved in the decision making, you need to play by our rules. That's essentially the argument.
Yeah.
And I can also
and vice
understand,
versa, by the way, and vice versa.
and I can also understand the GNCC's position of we want to be part of the whole governing thing and grow curling as a nation, but we don't want to be your enforcer. And the question then really gets to, could USA Curling gain this 95% or whatever threshold they're willing to get comfortable with participation simply by means of competing for it? Could they offer enough things, resources, trainings, access, bonspiels, whatever, that make it attractive enough that all the clubs want to join?
I think that is the goal. I mean, I think that is the goal, but the structure right now doesn't have that. The goal of all of us is that we earn members, right? That we earn members, and that membership revenue, frankly, isn't as big a piece of our line item as it is, or it's a smaller line item on the budget. I think the long-term goal, but I mean, I don't see what the value is of a one regional organization actively working against a national organization, or vice versa. So
supposing a second organization, not saying which one, Wisconsin, decides also to pursue a similar tack and bails.
They're not going to, but yeah, you can bring that up. But
I mean, suppose it happens.
Well, yeah, then we'd have to probably look at an entirely different structure, which we'd be prepared to do.
So one region leaving is not enough. But if two do it, then you can look at it? Like, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
No, I don't think that's what I said.
Okay.
Because Wisconsin is unlikely to leave. And I said I said before, if we ever end up with a structure that is not regionally based, it might be something that we'd all consider. But right now, we've got one member. So you have one member at your curling club who doesn't want to abide by the membership rules of everybody else. So until you change your membership rules, it's difficult to have that person keep playing.
We've tossed a number of people out of Potomac this year.
That's true.
Sure. So, and I think the GNCC frankly likes this idea that we're turning our backs on 6,000 curlers. We're not. We'd be foolish to do that. We want to keep people engaged with USA Curling, and we'll work hard to do
which is where I want to sort of wrap this up, which is to say, given this dust-up, which I do believe will eventually get settled, I think that the interests of everybody involved are so heavily aligned in growing curling and making it ubiquitous and accessible that they will eventually come to some terms. What they are, I don't know. But
we're curlers. We'll have a beer. Yeah. It'll be okay. We'll work it out somehow.
Dictates that this will get settled over a pint or draw to the button, and everybody will be fine with it. And let's eat.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a curler. I agree with you. I think curlers can find solutions. But before we go, I want to ask you guys though, and I do this with everybody, just in terms of looking for feedback. What can USA Curling do for you, the individual curler? What are we not doing that you would like us to do?
What I would speak to, and I haven't entered into this yet, but you and I have talked, offline about this. But I've got kids who are going to be going into juniors, and I'm hoping anyway that they stay interested, and that I'm going to need that access. So it is worth it to me to stay involved, and not to mention, of course, I support the sport and I want to see it grow. And I don't imagine the GNCC is going to get curling to happen in Hawaii. So I think we're going to need the national organization to get that kind of thing to go. But I'm interested in it. But Stacy, you have some experience with how Club Nationals went, and maybe you could give a more definitive answer to Dean's very, very good question.
Yeah. So COVID aside, hopefully that never happens again. That's obviously a financial loss for any club that does it, and that's rough to say, hey, can you guys do this, and it's a loss.
Okay, because that was literally when you ran Club Nationals. You're talking about the one you ran right before the world shut down.
Yeah, it was rough.
Jeff Plush started in the job 4 weeks before that, so he really had no role in how that. Then the world shuts down.
Yeah.
Since then, it's an entirely new team. We had events last year made between $15,000 and $25,000. We are committed as an organization to making sure that our events make money for the host clubs. Now, we just put together a document on how we can help make that happen, things we can do, and we are working pretty hard to do that. We don't want a club to lose money on one of our events. I think that's ridiculous that it happened over the years.
So in theory, Baiko, former Potomac person, also Who Wants to Be a Millionaire champion, is doing it this year. So I'm interested to hear his take. But
well, no, he was on tap to host the GNCC regionals. Right?
Regionals, something.
Which now he won't be hosting.
He won't.
So,
but my kid beat his kid at Shorty's curling, so that's an important note. But just circle back to the question, let's put kind of playdowns and stuff aside, is I know, like, I was an instructor and I had to pay extra for that, which, whatever, but it was also people from my own club. I would like to feel more involved because I would like to feel like there's more opportunities for me. As a regular person who has no hopes of going to the Olympics, who probably will never be a national champion, I would like to feel like I could go to a training camp. I could go take this online course. I want to better my game. I'd like to see more women brought into the sport, and more people, more diversity. And I know there's a little push for that.
We have a DEI committee with a new charter. We have an icebreakers program. So
yeah.
We would like to see more of that.
So there's I see things starting.
I don't disagree with you on that either. I mean, we actually are, like I said, we're developing products all the time right now. Whether it was the Ice Tech Summit, we're going to have probably an adult skills camps that people will take on.
Can I ask?
No, just a sec. We changed how we manage those level 1 instructor clinics to incentivize clubs. We now have the way it's set up now, and I can send you the memo of understanding the other clubs. We're going to schedule them more consistently, and clubs can actually make money on those.
Can I ask 2 indelicate questions?
Yeah.
The first is, if you are now making all of these efforts saying, look, we've got all new management and everything in place, we understand that some of these needs have not been met, you're trying to...
for a long time, yeah.
Yeah. Why make such a drastic change while you're also trying to gain that goodwill? Wouldn't it have made more sense to get the new people in place, establish the goodwill, and show the national press?
Goodwill works both ways, Mike. I mean, I think we made a lot of efforts. Our former chair, Courtney Schmidt, attended GNCC meetings. There were a lot of conversations then. So it wasn't as if anybody in our organization was like, ooh, this is great. So I think goodwill works both ways. I mean, I don't think it's... I mean, I think when the president of the GNCC, the secretary, and the treasurer all have their clubs not join USA Curling, I don't know if that's exactly extending the olive branch. Let's put it that way.
No, I mean, I understand that does feel a little rough. My second indelicate question is, if we are working on diversity and DEI stuff, would losing the East Coast and basically being left with the Upper Midwest make that a little bit more challenging? I don't know how else to put that.
We're not left with the Upper Midwest. I mean, clubs that want to be part of USA Curling on the East Coast will have a great avenue to do it. I mean, we're not certainly turning our backs on anybody. Somebody could create a new region, by the way, as well, going forward. Or clubs that are in close proximity that geographically probably should have been in Great Lakes could join that association. So there's more than one option. But
so what I'm hearing is I need to start my own region within my micronation in my backyard and see if I can get a seat.
I'm not encouraging you to do that, but that's...
Oh, okay.
Well, Maryland joined the Big Ten, and as a Purdue person, I could not handle that. So
yeah, Michigan guy, not thrilled with that either. But it means I get to see Michigan kick the shit out of the Terps every other year here without having to travel.
Here's all I'd say. I think we have a great game. I think everybody at USA Curling believes in our sport and wants to serve as many members as we can. Does that mean that we have something absolutely for everybody right now? No, probably not. But we will. But we're working pretty hard to make sure those things happen. I'd love to bring, if you want to talk to me, Stacy, about bringing an adult skills camp to Potomac, I would be all about that. Right now,
done.
Probably with a national team athlete or two. We do. To me, it's no different. Some people don't even like it when we make revenue from something, right? So we run a camp and we try to make some revenue or at least break even. But if we make revenue, that goes back into the organization. It's not going anywhere else. I mean, you can look at other NGBs like field hockey, for instance, or baseball. They run clinics, they make money, they provide something of value. As long as you provide something of value, that money goes back into the organization. So
we know all about nonprofits and raising money. We are.
I mean, there's definitely checks and balances, right? Like, I'm not going to take a week off of work and pay $5,000 to go to Hot Shots. Some people will,
No.
but if there were smaller, digestible things that I could do, I would probably do them. And I structured Women's League this year to do that. So I believe in that.
With the Hot Shots thing. In fact, I think that's our wedge in to be like a one-day camp at a club that is a skills camp, and we'll bring people in. I'm thrilled to do that. So
let's do it. I'll work with you.
I took my brushing clinic last year to Triangle as part of USA Curling. I do that again. It's actually cheaper now as part of USA Curling.
It's been here.
Yeah, and now it's half the price it used to be because it's part of USA Curling. So, but yeah, I mean, let's pilot one at your club. Happy to do that. Pilot adult skills camp at your club. I'd be thrilled to do it.
Done.
Well,
Make it
One of the
happen.
things that he has to do with this stuff is do it once, right? Like we did an Ice Tech Summit once. We're going to do another one in the Bay Area in September probably. So, yeah. So we do need some clubs that are willing to step out.
I think that the good way to sort of end it, and it does very much highlight the spirit of curling aspect, is here we are in the midst of what is essentially the curling civil war, and our main interest is how can we get back together so we can, curl and hang out, really? I mean, isn't that what we're all here
I
for?
don't think we're distanced or divorced in any way from your club unless you elect to do that. I mean, if you're an
Well,
at-large
I'm not electing anything. You and I are still going to be
If
buddies.
you're an
Don't-
at-large club next in this curling season, I'd be thrilled to bring that adult skills camp to Potomac.
I don't think I really get a vote in that. But
I mean, it's a club board decision. I guess,
Right.
But,
Here's the deal: if we can, Stacy, you and I often have a lot of control over food and beer, so
We
I think
do.
we have a lot more influence than people think.
bottom line is, I love your club too. I mean, look, I've had two
Who
great
doesn't?
wins there, and I've done the clinics there, and I enjoy everybody. Look, I'm a GNCC member. I mean, like you mentioned quickly about what does USA Curling do for me. I could say the same thing about the GNCC, right? I mean, I've been a member of the GNCC since 2006, and like I said, haven't got
Okay.
anything out of it.
I mean, our answer's insurance.
Yes! What are you talking about? Come
But I
on, we're
support
great.
it because I support efforts to grow the game. So I support it. In an individual level, nothing. But that's fine for me because I know that as a broader good, it's a good thing.
I mean,
I don't think there's any argument about that. People understand the value of USA Curling.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, no, I mean, I actually think we have to do a better job of explaining the value. But yeah.
yeah, the tweets coming out right after the email was a little bad timing, but
maybe it's a PR team. And it's not so
They
much
have
a
one.
message.
They have a PR team.
A better one. I don't know. Talk to the folks who run Wendy's.
Hire me.
I think
Okay. So
I think our
anyway,
communications are pretty good. I think it's difficult to communicate with curlers all the time. I mean, we, just trying to get people's attention. For instance, in July. I mean, if we put out a thing,
You got it.
Yeah. If we put out
You got our attention.
Something about the adult skills camp in July, I'd have no answers. By the way, I have online training for level 1 course conductors, and 8 people are signed up right now. So
right.
anybody wants to know about that.
So Dean, let's do this. Send me the links for how people can, get signed up for your online stuff and for anything that you have coming up available. We'll publish those along with this episode so that everybody can get a chance to get in contact and sign up and learn, get your brushing technique and sweeping for the rest of us, and just sort of enjoy curling because really at the heart of this, that's what we're all really here for, is it not?
Yeah, I love the game as much as anyone, right? So, and I definitely have appreciated your candor in this, and if I got a little extra combative at times, I apologize, but I think you're DC East Coast people, I'm a Jersey guy.
We understand, and also combative for curling is pretty much.
Right.
Right.
I think we all care. We all care a lot,
100% all care.
and that comes out.
Yep.
And it's not personal. Even if a club, let's just pretend our club decided not to be an at-large member, I'm not saying, hey, you, person number 12, I'm telling you not to go to club nationals. It's not a personal thing. It's what's best for everybody. And I think, genuinely, everybody wants to find a great solution that is good for the sport and is good for everybody. So, I firmly believe that to my core, and I've been able to see that's true, so thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just going to keep doing what we have been doing, try to, we're going to improve our events, we're going to, deliver on that, we're going to keep delivering, we're going to try to get more exposure, more streaming, more media coverage, all those things don't change for
appreciate you coming on and being that bit of that communication, because it is helping to bridge some of these gaps, and we really, really appreciate you taking the time, because it is important for all of us and for everybody outside of the curling world to have some idea what the hell we're all jazzed up about over here on the ice.
They're not going to listen to this, Chip.
Curlers are enthusiastic, Mike.
Very enthusiastic bunch. Okay, Dean, thank you so much for joining us on this weird episode of ChipChat. We will get it out and send you the stuff. I can't wait till I get to come on whole spiel and talk about what I'm actually good at making fun of, which is the news. Maybe, I don't know, if you need a wisecrack or two about, I don't know, insert bad politician here.
I don't know if I want to get political on the whole spiel, but yeah, Mike, I appreciate it, and Stacy, I appreciate your time too.
Excellent. All right, great. We'll talk to you offline, I guess, about all that other stuff you want to tell me. We won't publish any of that, though, I promise. Okay, you've been listening to a weird episode of Chip Chat, not here on Rip Radio Network.